It's been a long while since I've done something like this, but when you're doing media analysis and review, you do want to get things out as soon as possible, particularly for new releases, which does give you very small windows to do anything else, because some of the stuff that maybe has been out for years, you're like, well, if I cover this thing this week so it's as near as possible to the release of it, then I can do that next week. And you keep putting these things that have been out for a while back, while you look at the new stuff, and you build a backlog, and then you're like, well, when you've got a week free, you want to cover that off. But I always used to do thought pieces, and I still have those thought processes. So I think every now and again I'm going to have to do one of these where I combine a couple of ideas. I did one ages ago, and I think that was a great way to do it, just a few things in one video, so that I'm not just delaying myself for even more weeks down the line. And there is a kind of idea I've got floating around my head that I might sort of discuss in brief at the end, but we'll get to that in time. And this isn't one of those, techniques of making sure people watch to the end, important announcement. No, if you want to skip to the end and find out what I said, go for it. I'm not worried. But the two things that have really sort of stuck in my brain recently and kind of made my blood boil to a degree, definitely I do want to cover here. Like I say, I don't think they'd make a full video, and it would also give me a further backlog, so more benefit. But the first thing, well, I think the first thing requires a bit of backstory. I'm firmly on the side of vaccination. I think the anti-vaccination movement is misguided. I don't consider it evil or wrong or intentionally harmful, let's put it that way. I think the intent is pure. They're coming from a good place, emotionally, if you will, or whatever. But it's just their understanding of science, I think, is a bit lacking. It's an education thing. But I'm not going to get into the whole anti-vax thing, because that would have been a video ages ago if that's what this whole thing was about. It's a very specific subset. Because my view on vaccines is they're not just a personal benefit, there's a social benefit. And you've probably heard this argument before. If I don't get vaccinated, I could get a disease, and then someone who can't get vaccinated at all because they have a fragile immune system could potentially get ill from me. Meaning, in a roundabout way, I have contributed to their ill health and potentially death. That's not a good thing at all. And, a lot of people I see have this very selfish thing of like, well, why should I take this into me, just to protect other people? And that's the bit that kind of terrifies me. But some actually think that they're actually doing the world a better service because they haven't got bits of a live virus inside them that they could pass on to someone. Again, it's the understanding, I think, that's wrong here, not the intent. But there are certain fields who you'd expect would be a bit more on the side of vaccination. And this is the thing that I saw that really annoyed me. There are people in healthcare professions or doing medical degrees who are required, either as part of their employment or as their course, to get vaccinated for whatever, whatever it may be, flu shots, whatever. And there seems to be a group where they share tips on how to get around the system, like going into a Walgreens, which I believe is something equivalent to, say, our Boots or some such, a pharmacy kind of thing where you can go in, pay for the flu shots, and normally you pay for it separately, I believe, and then you go and, the person doing the shot gives you the shot, blah, 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 blah. But if you go in with your receipt to whoever's saying you've got to have it, well, there's proof. That is just abhorrent to me. Because, one, again, these are the people who are being educated in healthcare. You think they'd understand it a lot better, and the benefits to it. You'd hope. But two, these are the people who are going to be coming in contact with those who have compromised immune systems, or just no immune system, whether congenitally or through some other kind of infection that they've gotten later in life. And that terrifies me. Because these people aren't sort of going, well, maybe I shouldn't be in that field then if I don't agree with it. They're looking for a loophole. And that's just awful. In a lot of these places, yes, they are told that they can wear a mask instead, which is fine, But there are some who are saying, well, you can only wear a mask, if you can prove that you can't have the shot, you've had a bad reaction or whatever. And okay, some of the onus there is on the employer. whoever, or, course provider, whatever it may be, to maybe be a bit more flexible. Just say, well, okay, that's your beliefs, but you've got to wear a mask. You will be constantly monitored. If you're not wearing a mask, instant dismissal. Because if it's part of their terms of employment or whatever, then surely they're in breach of contract. And again, if they're in a healthcare service, gross negligence. There's a lot of problems with it, like I say, and it really just got me. I was seething for a few days, and just remembering it now, I'm seething a little again. But I don't want this to turn into a massive negative hole of a video where I just rant at the screen for hours. But it just terrified me. If you're going to work in a field where you're dealing with these people and you're required to get the shot, either get it, leave the profession, or see if you can actually, I don't know, use your moral grounds, similar to like how you've got religious grounds for not being able to do things in a job, potentially, to be allowed to wear a mask. Don't try and game the system. Change the system. Whilst I still agree that you should probably get vaccinated if you can, if you're that vehemently against it, that's your belief. I'm not going to take that away from you. But just do it for other people. Think of others, please. And the other thing that got me, there was a specific example, and I'm not going to name names, but it was a fennec fox, and that might help key people in who know. But these people who have, say, cats and other obligate carnivores, who insist on feeding them vegan diets. That's animal abuse, by any other name. Part of the arguments that I've seen in response have been, medical science is great these days because we can replicate amino acids and things like that. And, okay, if that's the case, why do these animals look malnutritioned, or malnourished, even? Why do they look so poor and ailing? Why are they developing sores and rashes, and why is their fur falling out? If these synthetic amino acids that you're apparently giving to them are so good, why isn't it working? A healthy animal requires what diet it requires. You as a vegan or whatever does not change what an animal requires. I know people who keep obligate carnivore pets, and they feed them stuff that's basically based, mostly in meat. They understand. And one of the arguments back that this particular person I'm thinking of, who, as I say, if you know the story, you've probably automatically got them in your head, was saying, like, I don't care if you, have researched this kind of thing, or if you have a degree in biology. Well, do you know who else has a degree in biology? The people creating these synthetic amino acids. So if you're saying a degree in biology doesn't mean you know what's best for the animal, then why are you trusting these people to make your amino acids? And it just makes me sick, really. These two examples are people who are really in a position of, power over things or people or things that can't really do some things themselves, whether that be to have a strong immune system or to, nourish themselves with, or say themselves, I can't eat this isn't good for me. And I think that's what gets me. It's when people are abusing people who can't do anything about it. I think that's what's really stuck with me with these two stories. So one thing I really hate, sort of abuse of the vulnerable, whether that be an animal or a person. And I really just wanted to get it off my chest before I exploded. But like I say, I don't really get the opportunity. It probably would have been a more rounded video if I'd have done them both in one, and I could have spent time, but I think they just rankle me that much. So now on to the things I wanted to cover at the end, and hello people who skip forward. First of all, there have been a couple of cryptocurrency addresses in my description for the past few weeks, where you can give me tips directly. I haven't said it in a video because I don't like to beg, but I'm just letting you know, if you didn't know, that they're there. If you do want to give any tips in either Gridcoin or Bitcoin, even if it's just the minimum amount you can send through the network, I'll accept anything. Always grateful. It just helps me sort of keep building my portfolio. But the other thing is sort of related as well. I've had a Patreon up for a while, and it's just sat there pretty much because I'm not very good at knowing what to do for value, I guess, and also knowing that I can't afford to just send out signed things every week or whatever. It's one of those things. But as much as I hate paywalling things, I think it's one way to at least add a bit of value. So I'm planning on, maybe not this time, maybe at some point over the next sort of month or two, trying to basically get myself effectively about 3 weeks ahead and have the next week's video go live on Patreon a week before it goes live on YouTube. It's just a way of, perhaps encouraging people to contribute. It won't be much, I don't want to sort of charge people, 10, 25, whatever it may be, sort of dollars or pounds to just watch a video a week early. It will be a small amount, and you'll obviously get, the name in the credits and all that kind of stuff that a lot of people do. But at the moment, it's the most I can do from a value perspective. Maybe sort of, occasional editing live streams if people want that. But it's just me trying to improve value and improve the branding, I guess, the branding. But improve what I'm doing because, I am trying to do this as one human being on their own, and it's difficult. It takes a lot of time, and with my difficulties, it's more finding the windows, and I'd love to have an office where I can just be soundproofed because I could do this. I could probably do daily uploads if I had the space and time. But at the moment I've got to make do with what I can, and anything I can get to help towards doing that improves what I can do, improves the quality of what you're getting, and probably makes things a bit better all around, I would hope. So I do hope that you'll at least look into one of those 3 options. Even if you don't, just looking at it is enough. It just means that at least you've shown a bit of interest. So again, I don't like begging, I don't like pushing and promoting, I don't like paywalling, but I've got to look at it from a realistic perspective. So thank you for watching till the end, or skipping till the end. I'll be back to normal programming as of next week, so until then, as always, take care.